So they're upset with you, right? Because you weren't there to solve their problem in that moment. So they come to you. I was looking for you and I couldn't find you. When you hear that, does it sound like a question? So have you ever answered a question that was never asked? And I want you to think about that for a moment, because it happens so many times that we don't pay attention to it. It's usually when we're in a hyper state of arousal, when maybe we are wondering if someone is questioning who we are, questioning our integrity. So if you are a high achieving woman, if you are a woman that has good work ethic, who has loyalty, and someone is giving you the impression that they are questioning who you are and what you've done and what you're doing, then you may start defending yourself without realizing that they never asked you a question. So first I'm going to give you an example in the workspace, and then we're going to talk about an example in a personal life. And then I'm going to tell you just some ways to handle when people are saying something that sounds like a question. It feels like a question, but when you really listen to what they're saying, no question was asked. So let's do a work example, okay? Maybe you are in a high stress work environment. Everyone wants you, everyone needs you, everything seems to be an emergency. You know it's not, they know it's not, but it feels like an emergency, right? And so they're upset because you were not available at the time that they were in their emotional crisis. They were in their hyper state of arousal. So they're upset with you, right? Because you weren't there to solve their problem in that moment. So they come to you. I was looking for you and I couldn't find you. When you hear that, does it sound like a question? If I'm in the moment, I would feel like that was a question. And so my answer might be, oh, I was doing this, I had this call, and then I had this meeting, then my phone rang, and something happened, I have all this stuff going on. All of a sudden, you have explained everything that you're doing, but what you miss is that they're in a hyper state of arousal, and they really need to come down. You decide how much of that is your responsibility. Typically, I decide that none of it's my responsibility to calm them down. But what we do is that we start to over-explain, hoping that they will calm down, that it won't reflect bad on us, and that they're not having some bad, negative opinion of us. That's not accurate. That's not our job. That is not your job to do. If they're in a hyper state of arousal, they're feeling stressed, they're feeling overwhelmed, then they have some options to do to take care of themselves. And they get to choose whatever option is best for them, right? They can take a walk, they can call their spouse, they can play with their puppy, they can do deep breaths, they can do whatever they want to do. Let them decide. Let that be their decision. So that's a work example. That's a work example. So let's talk about a personal example where sometimes we feel like we have to answer something, right? Maybe you might got a family member that says, where you been? I ain't heard from you in a while. Doesn't that feel like a question, right? Have you ever had that happen to you? Like, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Have you ever had someone be like, I haven't heard from you in a while. You must be busy, right? You must be doing something. Does this feel like a question to you? Well, now you're thinking, no, whomever, mom, grandma, brother, uncle, friend, whomever. No, what I've been doing is, and then you start to list everything that you've been doing. That one, are they entitled to know this information? Do they need to know this information? Will this information help them feel better? No. It's not what you've been doing. They're concerned about how come you haven't been showing them any attention, right? We have to learn to listen to what the actual message is versus than what's being said, right? That's what communication is about. What actually is being said, but then actually what does the people need from me? And it's not to know your whole business, right? But we feel like we do. So when you're at work and maybe someone comes and they say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, okay, did you need something? We're going to put it back on them. And we're not angry, right? Is there anything to get angry about? No. There's nothing to get angry about. But we are going to put it back on them. Say, oh, did you need something? Because what you're doing is getting more information. What you're doing is getting clarity, because you don't want to give more information that they don't need, or more information that they can pick apart and use at their free will, because that's what you chose to give them. We're not giving them that much power and information, and we don't even know what playing field we're on. Oh, okay, did you need something? And they say, oh, now I just came out to your office a couple of times and looked for you, and I knocked, not hearing the answer. Okay, was something going on at that time, or just something you just wanted to talk about something? Because remember, you still don't know what's going on. Now, I hear you. Like, oh, I can't do that with my supervisor, or I can't do that at my work. I'm going to get fired. You will only get that response or have that fear if you feel like there's something that's coming up in you that's making you mad. You're like, oh, my facial expression, right? My attitude, I'm not sure about my tone, so that might get a reaction. There's going to be this big thing because they're going to misperceive me because I'm not answering their question. They didn't ask one, right? Remember, we're not making that your responsibility. So when you're thinking it's my responsibility to tell them my whole business when they didn't ask, think about that concept. So is there anything to get mad of? No, because you have not, disregarded yourself. You have not violated your own boundary in any way because you didn't give up information. You're only going to be upset if you violated your boundary by saying, here's everything in my life that I've been doing in the last hour. Let's say your supervisor or your coworker, you have a nosy colleague or whatever, is coming to check on you and say, hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you. And you have been in your office swamped. You have phone calls. You have all these things coming on. You have all this. You are just swamped, right? And then they have the audacity, right? The audacity to kind of accuse you of not being available. Wouldn't you feel some type of way? I would. So a way to deal with that is saying, I'm not going to give my power away by justifying my work. Because when it comes to your work, that's a whole other category versus what are you doing in this moment, right? If it's about your work, then there's a pattern of behavior that's going to be addressed. That's not what we're talking about right now, so then you don't have to explain that. So we're not answering questions that have not been asked. So now we're at the family reunion, we're at the family get together, or our family member feels like they're entitled to know where we're at or what you've been doing. You can just say something simple. What's the first example? Oh, you must have been busy. I've had some things going on. What's going on? What's going on, Mom? Hey, Grandma, what's going on? Do you need something? How are you? How you been? Right? You don't have to justify that. And sometimes we feel like we do because we don't want to be misperceived. One is being rude, especially in the Black community, right? Somehow there's this message that we need to say and we need to do all these things because there's an entitlement of knowing sometimes in the Black community. I get that. And if we say or do something other than what the person's either expecting or asking, we're being rude and disrespectful. I completely get the culture. I grew up in the culture. I get the culture. But do you recognize that a lot of times in the Black community it comes across as our tone, right? And our attitude and our disposition is really what's being read more than the words. You get to create your own boundary of what type of life you want to live and how you want people to treat you. You get to decide what you want to share and how much you don't want to share. You get to decide if someone says, hey, you are entitled to know this information about me, you get to decide if you agree to that or not. Maybe, just maybe, you don't agree that I get to tell you all of what I've been what's going on with me. You know what a interesting family thing is? Now I know this one is a question. This is kind of going against the topic, but have you gotten married yet? Maybe it's a statement. No man yet, I see. Right? Or when you're going to have a baby? You're getting older. Right? Sometimes they're questions and sometimes they're statements posed as questions. But we still feel like, is there something that I need to say in response to this question or statement, or this statement that's kind of posed as a question? Like, how do I handle that where I don't come off disrespectful, where I don't come off rude, but I also don't want to ignore my family member, right? Because in our culture, that's a sign of disrespect. I don't want to ignore my family member. So one of the things that you can do is just say, you know what, Auntie, I'm just going to say Auntie. You know what, Auntie, when I get married, when someone proposes to me, I hopefully think it's going to be a great surprise to me. Maybe I might know what's coming, but hopefully the actual day and time of when it happens will be a wonderful surprise for me. And when I'm surprised, I will share that surprise with you, and then we get to be surprised together. So then you don't have to ask me anymore because it's going to ruin the surprise. Let me surprise you and tell you when I'm surprised. Right? Imagine any woman who looks at that pregnancy stick and it says the 2 lines, I'm pregnant, or whatever test she takes and she says I'm pregnant. I don't care if you have a planned pregnancy or not. You are still in a state of shock when it says pregnant. Yes or no? Right? Let me know in the comments. Yes or no? You are still in a state of shock if it says pregnant. So, Auntie, when I'm pregnant, if God chooses to bless me with a child to bring into this world, I am going to be surprised and shocked and going to navigate that, and I will be more than happy to share that experience with you. So you don't need to ask anymore, so we can share that experience together. Don't ruin the surprise. Right? So let me know some other examples in the comments, and I'd love to get back with you of saying, but what about if someone asks this? Or what if about someone says this? Or what if I'm in this? And then I'll get back to you, and we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about some ways to deal when someone is asking you something and you feel like you need to answer a question. Here's the consequence when you do that. You already lose your power. When you answer a question that's actually not being asked, you're losing your power. And what I mean by that, the confidence is decreasing, and you're telling the person you have a right to know my information without you even asking. I'm going to share all my stuff with you just because you have shown some type of presence, right? And I've determined that you deserve to know. Do you want them to know that much about you? Do you want them to believe that much? Do you want them to feel like they're entitled? Probably not, because there's going to come a time when you're like, I don't believe so-and-so asked me that. I don't believe she asked me that. I don't believe he asked me that. I don't believe he felt like he has the right to know that. Well, think about those other moments that were maybe a little bit less threatening, a little bit less risky, where you did say, oh, this is what happened. Oh, this is why this is. This is why. Because they got a pattern that says, I'm entitled to know. You think about celebrities, right? Celebrities will say, or they'll be upset and say, just because I'm giving you a glimpse of my life does not mean you deserve to know all of my life. And of course, as a public, some public people are like, no, you're a celebrity. I deserve to know the whole ins and outs, and how dare you choose not to share it with me? You're being rude. You're being nasty. You're not a nice celebrity, right? And there's some celebrity artists that handle it very well. How often do you hear from Beyonce? We don't. Right? And then there's other celebrities like Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey will tell you what he wants to know, and there's other times he'll tell you it's none of your business. And he makes no apologies for any of that. And then there's other celebrities who divulge almost everything, or at least it feels like they divulge almost everything. And then those are the ones that get a lot of comments, then they get very overwhelmed. You get to decide what narrative you want to be. Some people may view me as, oh, she's secretive. I'm thinking, I told them I'm not secretive. I share what I choose to share on a need to know basis. If I feel like you need to know, I will share it. My motto, you have to earn the right to know my information. And when I decide that that's what you can handle that information. One, I can handle sharing it to you. Two, you can handle receiving the information. And three, I trust your responses in my best interest. I need some time to figure all that out. Give yourself some time to figure all that out. I don't need to tell you everything because I don't know what you're going to do with this information. I don't know if you're going to use it against me. Really quick story, and I'm going to let you go after this. Starting a new job, and I had a colleague who had a previous very, very horrible experience with a previous supervisor at her other job. So she comes to the new job and she's there less than a week. So getting to know everyone, so she tells her new supervisor her horrible experience with her previous supervisor. Her intent of sharing this information was hoping that this new supervisor will understand that she's really hypervigilant at work, or she's really paranoid, that this new supervisor will take some compassion with her. And I said, well, you don't know if that's how the supervisor will take it. The person can either have compassion towards you, or they can use it against you and know that you are very stressed to make sure that you don't upset your supervisor. And this new supervisor may say, I have some power over her. I know she cares. And I'm thinking, you gave a lot of information without getting any. First, learn who this supervisor is. What is this supervisor's pain point? What does this supervisor care about? Is this supervisor on a power trip? Because if so, you just handed them a whole bunch of power. Does the supervisor care about people? If they care about people, then you did good, right? Now they know to be compassionate. But you don't have enough information to know if they care about power, if they care about people. You need to know the difference. Right? So I would love to know your comments about this video. Drop them in the comments. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. Look in the show descriptions if you want to work with me one-on-one. If you are a high achieving woman and you say, I want to build some confidence, I want to learn how to use my voice better, I want to learn how to communicate with some active language so that I don't get tested, right? So that I can get the life that I want, I can get the love that I want, and I can engage in some vulnerability. And what does that look like for me? What does that even mean for me personally? Hit me up the links. Let's book a consultation. Let's kind of go through and work through that. And we're going to get you all the way together in the way that's best for you. All right. Thanks for listening to the video. Tune into the next one. Hope to see you soon.